On a sweltering Wednesday afternoon in August 2024, the Hillcrest neighborhood of San Diego, California, buzzed with the sounds of traffic and the scent of tacos from food trucks on University Avenue. Low-rise buildings with balconies overflowing with bougainvillea intertwined with hipster cafes and antique shops. On the corner of 10th Avenue, an old peeling three-story apartment building stood silently with a loose "For Rent" sign hanging by the entrance. Apartment 2B on the second floor, abandoned for nearly 6 months, awaited new tenants. But today it became the scene of a gruesome discovery. Around 3:30 p.m., Maria Lopez, a 28-year-old real estate agent, brought a young couple to view apartment 2B. The wooden door creaked as she pushed it open, revealing a dark, dusty space. A strong, putrid smell wafted up, as if something had rotted in the stuffy air. Maria apologized, thinking a dead animal was under the floor. She stepped into the living room, where a large styrofoam box, typically used for shipping frozen fish, lay haphazardly by the window. The lid was slightly askew, revealing a dark liquid stain seeping out, soaking into the wooden floor. "What is this?" the husband, Tom, asked, his voice doubtful. Maria, trying to remain calm, approached and gently lifted the lid of the box. A stiff, pale hand emerged from the melting ice. She screamed, dropping the lid, and backed into the wall. The panicked couple ran out calling 911. Within minutes, San Diego police arrived, led by Detective Ryan Whitaker, a 40-year-old white man with sharp eyes and short brown hair. Whitaker entered the apartment, his masked face not hiding his tension as he looked into the styrofoam box. Inside was the body of a woman, curled up, her face distorted by death. The smell of decay mixed with the musty air made a young officer turn away. The abandoned apartment, seemingly harmless, was now the center of a murder investigation. Apartment 2B was once home to Jerome Hayes, a 38-year-old black man who worked as a security guard at a bar in the Gaslamp Quarter. Jerome left abruptly in February without paying rent, leaving behind his belongings in disarray. The landlord, accustomed to tenants fleeing, only did a superficial clean and relisted the apartment. No one suspected that the apartment harbored a deadly secret. Neighbors remembered Jerome as quiet, withdrawn, but always polite. "He used to stand on the balcony smoking, didn't say much," said a resident across the hall. But a few months before his disappearance, Jerome became tense, frequently closing his windows and drawing his curtains. Who died in the styrofoam box? Why was the body hidden here? And what pushed Jerome, a seemingly ordinary man, into the darkness of crime? The story began in the days before, when Hillcrest was still a vibrant neighborhood, unaware that a tragedy was silently unfolding. Like all cases, the signs were always there, waiting for a moment to erupt. San Diego, with its brilliant sunshine and ocean breeze, was where Jerome built his life after moving from Atlanta 10 years prior. He lived alone, worked night shifts, and rarely shared details about his past. Neighbors didn't know much, only that he often brought heavy bags into the house late at night. "I thought he was dealing antiques." Mrs. Clara, who lived downstairs, told the police later, her voice trembling. "Now I wish I had paid more attention." As Whitaker and the investigative team began to dig deeper, they discovered that the styrofoam box was just the tip of a complex story full of secrets and fears. Apartment 2B, with its silent walls, had witnessed something no one wanted to believe. Hillcrest, San Diego, August 2024, gleamed with golden sunshine and the sound of music from bars on University Avenue. Apartment 2B, an old apartment building on 10th Avenue, was where Jerome Hayes, 38, a black man, used to live. Jerome, a security guard at a bar in the Gaslamp Quarter, was reclusive and kept to himself. Neighbors remembered him as tall, quiet, often smoking on his balcony, with a distant look in his eyes. The victim, later identified as Emily Tran, 29, a Vietnamese-American accountant, met Jerome through a dating app in 2023. Emily, who lived in North Park, was described by friends as cheerful but trusting. She used to talk about Jerome said he was good but mysterious, her close friend Lisa recalled. Their relationship was initially romantic but began to strain in early 2024. Neighbors noticed unusual signs. Mrs. Clara downstairs heard arguments from apartment 2B at night, a woman's voice mixed with Jerome's, "Don't threaten me." Once Clara saw Emily leaving the apartment, her eyes red from crying. Jerome also changed. He drew his curtains, brought heavy bags into the house late at night. "I thought he was dealing things," Clara later told the police. Jerome was facing financial difficulties, owed rent, and was fired for arguing with a customer at the bar. He frequently made phone calls, his voice tense, to an unknown person. Emily, according to Lisa, wanted to break up but feared Jerome's retaliation. She said he knew too much about her. Lisa recounted her voice full of regret. Apartment 2B, with its peeling walls and old wooden floors, became a cage for secrets. Before Jerome left in February, he hastily packed his belongings, leaving behind the large styrofoam box. No one suspected it contained a horrifying secret waiting to be discovered. On the evening of February 15, 2024, Apartment 2B on 10th Avenue, Hillcrest, San Diego, was plunged into darkness. Faint streetlights pierced through the drawn curtains, casting shadows on the peeling walls. Jerome Hayes, 38, stood in the living room, clutching his phone, breathing heavily. The doorbell rang at 8:05 p.m., breaking the silence. Through the peephole, he saw Emily Tran, 29, wearing a thin coat, her eyes anxious. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. 8:10 p.m. Emily entered the door, closing behind her. "I want to stop Jerome," she said, standing near the window. "I can't continue." Jerome, his face dark, approached her. "You think it's easy to leave me?" he growled. The argument erupted. Emily screamed, "You can't threaten me anymore." Jerome, enraged, grabbed her shoulder, pushing hard. Emily fell her head, hitting the edge of the wooden coffee table. Blood seeped out, spreading on the floor. She lay motionless, eyes wide open. Her breathing stopped. 8:25 p.m. Jerome knelt beside the body, panicked. Music from a nearby bar drowned out all sounds. He checked Emily's pulse, but it was futile. Trembling, he dragged her body to the corner of the room near the window. The metallic smell of blood mixed with the stuffy air. Jerome retrieved a large styrofoam box previously used for transporting items from the storage closet. He stuffed Emily's body inside, curled up, poured ice from the refrigerator on top, trying to conceal the odor of decay. The lid was tightly closed, but a streak of blood seeped out, soaking into the floor. 8:50 p.m. Jerome wiped the floor with a wet towel, his hands shaking. He stuffed the blood-stained towel into a trash bag and threw it in the dumpster behind the building. The apartment was now quiet, only his heart pounding in his chest. He drew the curtains, turned off the lights, and sat on the sofa staring at the styrofoam box in the darkness. That night, he didn't sleep, his mind a mess. On the morning of February 16th, Jerome hastily packed. He stuffed clothes into a travel bag, leaving his belongings in disarray. The styrofoam box remained there unsuspected. At 10:30 a.m., he left the apartment, locked the door, and disappeared from Hillcrest. The landlord, thinking he was absconding due to unpaid rent, didn't thoroughly inspect, only doing a superficial clean and relisting the apartment. The box, with its horrifying secret, was left forgotten in the dark apartment, waiting 6 months later when Maria Lopez accidentally opened the lid, revealing the crime Jerome thought he had buried. On August 14, 2024, Apartment 2B on 10th Avenue, Hillcrest, San Diego, remained abandoned dust thickly coating the floor. Maria Lopez, the 28-year-old real estate agent, brought the couple, Tom and Sarah, to view the apartment at 3:30 p.m. Upon opening the door, the putrid smell made all three grimace. Maria, thinking it was a dead rat, apologized and entered. In the corner of the living room, the large styrofoam box with its askew lid caught their attention. A dark liquid stain seeped out, soaking into the wooden floor. Tom, suspicious, asked, "What's in there?" Maria, her heart pounding, lifted the lid. A pale hand emerged. She screamed, recoiling, and bumped into the wall. Tom and Sarah ran out, calling 911. Detective Ryan Whitaker, a white man, 40 years old, along with the San Diego police team, arrived at the scene at 4:00 p.m. The smell of decay from the styrofoam box made a young officer turn away. Whitaker noted the female body in the box, her face distorted, and ordered the apartment sealed off. Maria, still in shock, sat in the hallway telling Whitaker about the apartment being abandoned since February, when Jerome Hayes, the former tenant, disappeared. She remembered meeting Jerome a few months earlier when he returned a spare key. He looked stressed, kept looking at the door as if he was scared of someone, she said, her voice trembling. Mrs. Clara, the downstairs neighbor, was interviewed by the police. She recounted hearing arguments from apartment 2B back in February, a woman's voice screaming, "Don't threaten me." Clara also saw Jerome carrying heavy bags to the dumpster that night. "I was hesitant to call the police, didn't want to bother," she admitted, her eyes red. These details caught Whitaker's attention. He checked tenant records and found that Jerome, a black man who had worked as a security guard, had left Hillcrest right after the night of February 15th. A crucial discovery came from the security camera of the cafe across the street. Blurry images showed Jerome leaving the apartment at 10:30 a.m. on February 16th, carrying a travel bag, his face tense. He never returned. Whitaker realized the styrofoam box was not accidental. It was where the body was hidden. Maria and Clara, though, unintentionally became important witnesses, leading the investigation to focus on Jerome. Apartment 2B, thought to be silent, now told a horrifying story. Whitaker, with the intuition of a seasoned detective, knew that the journey to find Jerome Hayes had just begun, and the truth was waiting to be uncovered. On the afternoon of August 14, 2024, Apartment 2B on 10th Avenue, Hillcrest, San Diego, became the focal point of a shocking murder case. Detective Ryan Whitaker, a 40-year-old white man with over 15 years of experience at the San Diego Police Department, stood before the styrofoam box containing a woman's body, his eyes sharp but unable to hide his tension. The forensics team quickly arrived, collecting dried blood samples from the floor fingerprints from the box lid and transporting the body to the San Diego County Medical Examiner's office for autopsy. The apartment, with its smell of decay mixed with musty air, was sealed off, turning the vibrant Hillcrest neighborhood into a somber place. On the morning of August 15th, forensic pathologist Dr. Sarah Nguyen completed her autopsy report. The victim was identified as Emily Tran, 29, a Vietnamese-American accountant living in North Park. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head with a fracture in the back of the skull. The time of death was estimated to be between 8:00 p.m. and 9:00 p.m. on February 15, 2024, coinciding with when Jerome Hayes, the tenant of Apartment 2B, left Hillcrest. There were no signs of sexual assault, but a few bruises on Emily's shoulders indicated she had been held tightly before her death. A long black hair strand found on Emily's coat was sent for DNA analysis. In the apartment, the forensics team found Jerome's fingerprints on the styrofoam box lid and the doorknob. A blood-stained towel found in the dumpster behind the building also carried Emily's DNA. Security cameras from the cafe across the street recorded Jerome leaving the apartment at 10:30 a.m. on February 16th, carrying a travel bag, his face tense. Another image from a nearby ATM showed him withdrawing all the money in his account, about $1,200, shortly after. These clues led Whitaker to believe Jerome was the primary suspect, but he had been missing for over 6 months. Whitaker and his partner, Detective Karen Brooks, a 35-year-old white woman, began tracking Jerome. Records showed Jerome Hayes, 38, a black man, used to work as a security guard at the Tipsy Crow Bar in the Gaslamp Quarter. He moved from Atlanta to San Diego in 2014, had no prior criminal record, but had a history of debt, and was fired in January 2024 for arguing with a customer. The landlord of Apartment 2B confirmed Jerome stopped paying rent in February and left without notice. "I thought he was just skipping out on rent." The landlord said, "So I only did a superficial clean and relisted the apartment." Whitaker checked Emily's phone provided by her close friend Lisa after she reported Emily missing in March. Emily's last message sent to Lisa at 7:45 p.m. on February 15th read, "Going to meet Jerome, last talk. I'm a little scared." A series of earlier messages between Emily and Jerome showed a strained relationship. Jerome constantly demanded money, threatening to tell everyone about her secret if she didn't help. Emily, though wanting to break up, still met him because she feared retaliation. She said Jerome knew too much about her family. Lisa recounted, her voice choked with emotion. Based on information from Lisa Whitaker, discovered Jerome had contacted Emily through a dating app in 2023. The app's records subpoenaed by the court confirmed Jerome's phone number. Location data from the mobile carrier showed his phone active in Hillcrest on the evening of February 15th, but it was turned off shortly after 11:00 p.m. A significant lead came from the Greyhound bus management. Jerome bought a cash ticket to Las Vegas on the morning of February 16th. On August 20th, thanks to coordination with Las Vegas police, Whitaker received information that Jerome was doing odd jobs at a small casino on the outskirts. He was living under an assumed name, using cash to avoid being traced. On August 22nd, Whitaker and Brooks flew to Las Vegas, coordinating with the local SWAT team to arrest Jerome at a rundown apartment in the Paradise area. When handcuffed, Jerome, tall but emaciated, only bowed his head, offering no resistance. "I knew you would find me," he mumbled. In the interrogation room at the San Diego Police Department on August 23rd, Whitaker and Brooks confronted Jerome. Initially, he denied any involvement with Emily. "I didn't know she was dead," he said, avoiding eye contact. Whitaker placed before him security camera photos, DNA reports, and threatening messages from Emily's phone. "We have your fingerprints on the styrofoam box, Jerome," Whitaker said, his voice calm but sharp. "And Emily's blood on the towel you threw away. What do you want to tell us before the grand jury decides?" After 30 minutes of silence, Jerome slumped his head onto the table, his shoulders shaking. "I didn't mean to," he confessed, his voice hoarse. He recounted that on the evening of February 15th, Emily came to the apartment to break up. She refused to lend him money, and an argument erupted. "She said she would tell the police about things I did in Atlanta," Jerome said, referring to past debts and shady dealings. In a fit of rage, he pushed Emily, causing her to fall, and hit her head on the table. When he realized she was dead, Jerome panicked, stuffed the body into the styrofoam box, covered it with ice, and left San Diego the very next day. "I thought no one would find out," he said, his eyes red. Whitaker, though, having heard many confessions, felt a chill as Jerome recounted how calmly he hid the body. "That's when I knew we had found our killer." Whitaker later shared with Brooks. The forensic evidence messages and Jerome's confession formed a clear picture. He was charged with second-degree murder and concealment of a body, read his Miranda rights before being transferred to temporary detention. The case file was sent to the grand jury in late August. Whitaker, although satisfied with the outcome, was still haunted by Emily's story. "She just wanted to get away from him," he told Brooks as they reviewed the report. "If she had reported him to the police earlier, maybe things would have been different." Brooks nodded, but both knew that the system sometimes overlooks small signs, leaving irreversible consequences. The case rigorously followed American legal procedures. Miranda rights were clearly read upon Jerome's arrest, ensuring his statement's legality in court. The forensics team used advanced technology from DNA analysis to phone geolocation, reflecting the professionalism of the San Diego police. The grand jury, a vital part of the California justice system, would decide whether there was sufficient evidence to bring the case to a formal trial. Jerome Hayes's case was not just a personal tragedy, but also exposed the hidden corners of society, debt underlying violence, and the fear that prevents people from speaking out. As Whitaker closed the file, he knew the truth had been uncovered, but questions about responsibility, Jerome's, the system's, and his own, remained an incomplete answer. In April 2025, at the San Diego County Courthouse, Jerome Hayes, 38, stood before the jury. After 4 weeks of trial with forensic evidence and threatening messages presented, he was convicted of manslaughter and concealment of a body. The judge sentenced him to 10 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 6 years. Jerome bowed his head silent. Lisa, Emily's friend, sobbed in the public gallery. The case rocked Hillcrest. Mrs. Clara, the neighbor, was tormented by not reporting the arguments. Maria Lopez, who discovered the body, avoided the 10th Avenue area, haunted by the memory. Emily's family in North Park set up an altar for her, their grief unending. Lisa joined a victim support group determined to prevent similar tragedies. The Hillcrest community organized workshops on violence, encouraging the reporting of suspicious behavior. The San Diego police improved their threat handling procedures thanks to Detective Ryan Whitaker. Justice was served, but the pain lingered. Apartment 2B, now with new tenants, no longer bore the traces of the crime, but the story of Emily and Jerome continued to haunt. The killer didn't come from the shadows, but from the very despair within a place once called home.